If you ever hear a Jehovah's Witness say, I don't care if it's mom, sister-in-law, Bible teacher, a really nice, sweet old lady who comes to the door, if you ever hear a Jehovah's Witness say, well, only God can read the heart, you stop them immediately and don't let it go. Why? Because this is an extremely common response within the Jehovah's Witnesses. That's not what their religion teaches. So if they're going to casually throw that statement out, they need to understand its implications. Here's the thing. I know the type. Someone who's a few crayons short of a full box is not going to say something like this. It's usually an old timer, someone who has spent an inordinate amount of time, decades of their life in the organization, who's very studious. They mean well. They're very compassionate. They're usually projecting their own compassion and mercy onto the organization, but they have reached the point that they have to tell themselves this. Only God can read the heart. They've reached this point that they have to tell themselves these things in order to rationalize everything that's happened within the organization over their lifetime that isn't adding up, right? So here's the deal. This is actually a good thing. You want to get them? What can I say to wake up a witness? We all know the answer, that a witness has to wake themselves up. You can't really do anything to force them awake, but you can ask, you plant little seeds and ask questions along the way. But here's the deal. You don't start with 1914, all right, or some convoluted shit like that. All right, you're one of those people who wants to get the wheels turning. They just handed you an opportunity on a silver platter. All right, first what you do is you acknowledge the statement. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. What a nice sentiment to express. You want to acknowledge that it's a nice sentiment. Here's the thing, I'm not even being sarcastic. It is nice. This is how they actually feel. They don't want to believe that God is going to destroy everyone who's not a Jehovah's Witness. They don't even want that. So what you do is you counter this very kind sentiment with some critical thinking. Okay, so if only God can read hearts, 1, why do you require elders committees? And 2, why do you require conversion for salvation? The likelihood that you're going to be confronted with this type of situation is going to be higher if you were already raised a Jehovah's Witness, you have some experience with the witnesses, you're inactive. But also worldly people have heard this one too, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. It could happen either way. Okay, so if they don't automatically just shut down, if the other person is at least willing to hear what you have to say, here's why I say bring up those 2 questions. So for anybody watching this who may not realize this, Jehovah's Witnesses practice their own law, their own internal law or judicial system. Okay, they're going to say they follow God's laws. They're modeled after the first century Christians. That's pure hubris. It's insanely narcissistic. Their history as an organization proves that they have distorted justice based on their own interpretation of scripture. All right, prime example, they didn't used to practice shunning. Their own literature used to blast the Catholic Church for their practice of excommunication. But if shunning is scriptural, right, and it's always been the right thing to do based on God's laws, why did you suddenly, out of the blue, in the 1980s, start excommunicating or, quote, disfellowshipping people? If only God can read the heart, right? Why do you allow 3 men in the congregation to be the morality police? Why do you allow committees? Because now they don't call it judicial committee. That word has been scrubbed for anybody who didn't know. Why do you allow committees of elders? Use that term. Why do you allow committees of elders to determine whether or not someone is repentant? Why do you allow them to determine or discern whether that person is worthy of staying in the congregation and having contact, maintaining a relationship with their family? You are literally assuming the role of a judge. Like, who the f*** are you? Like, what's your metric? Do they need to cry a lot in their committee? Because I know tons of people who bawled and groveled for forgiveness for whatever they did in their judicial committee or judicial hearing and didn't do shit. People who just came out and begged the elders, I'm so sorry. Didn't do anything. They were treated like criminals. It is literally, I appreciate the sentiment that only God can read hearts, but it's literally antithetical or directly opposed to how you practice. All right, your actions as Jehovah's Witnesses are not aligning with your warm and fuzzy words. Why do these men get that power to make that decision? Now, it's a completely different story if someone actually poses a legitimate threat or danger to the congregation or to the safety of the congregation, like they have a criminal record or, record of essay, then of course you have every right to protect your congregation and kick that person out. The irony of that, of course, is that the Jehovah's Witnesses have infamously weaponized the 2-witness rule. to protect sex offenders in their organization and not report them to law enforcement. They've been doing this for decades. But more than that, they will give the victim and their family heat. Now, you have to understand, they'll never admit this to the public, but they will pressure the victim and their family into silence because it's bad PR for the organization. Okay, think about that. So not only are you protecting the real criminal, but you are going so far as to question the character or loyalty of the person who has been abused. It is a complete, utter perversion of justice. All right? Instead, what you guys are actually doing is enforcing consequences against a person, criminalizing a person who criticizes your ideology and policies. Okay? So if you're suggesting that only God can read hearts, that he's the only one who can judge a person, then why do you believe that you have the right to silence and ostracize people? 2, if you believe that only God can read the heart, why do you teach that baptism is a requirement for salvation? All right, let's listen to this clip, all right, straight from the horse's mouth. Oh, and I'm not talking about God.
It tells us that everyone who desires to be viewed as a righteous sheep must build up a good record of support for Christ's brothers now. For those who continue refusing to serve Jehovah and his kingdom, their judgment will be in place as the Great Tribulation begins.
I mean, you can read it for yourself right here in their own literature. As recent as their 2019 Watchtower, Keep Busy During the Last Days. They're talking about trying to make disciples. We need to help people understand how important it is for them to take their stand for Jehovah and his kingdom. This means trying to motivate people to make the truth their own by applying what they learn, dedicating their life to Jehovah, and getting baptized. Only then will they survive Jehovah's Day. It's clear as day right there. And it goes on to say in like paragraph 15, we cannot afford to keep studying. Okay, I've talked about this before in previous videos. They call these people dead stumps when they can't get people baptized or converted. We cannot afford to keep studying the Bible with people who have no clear intention of becoming Christ's disciples. You see how they frame it that way? Really what they're saying is you don't become a Jehovah's Witness, you're going to die. Our work is urgent, blah, blah, blah. All right? Your organization's official party line is that you have to be a baptized Jehovah's Witness in order to survive Armageddon and, make it into paradise in order to be saved. I mean, this topic is just a really big pet peeve of mine. I heard my mother say it and other sisters in the congregation. I mean, no matter where I went, I traveled to different states, countries. It's a pet peeve because of all the compassion and rationalization that Jehovah's Witnesses do to make themselves sound less harsh is just hypocritical. Like, don't sugarcoat it. I mean, let's just call your ideology what it is. You're judging people. You do it all the time. All right, so don't give me this only God can read the heart bullshit. Because if you truly believed that, you've contradicted yourself and completely dismantled your case for salvation. Like, why did Jehovah's Witnesses need to convert to be saved? Only God can read the heart. Right? Okay? You guys are speaking out both sides of your mouth. Not only that, OGs know what I'm talking about. Jehovah's Witnesses don't teach that once saved, always saved. Like once you get baptized, you're good, you're in. Man, you just coast. That'd be great. Hell no. Nah, your ass is gonna be making bricks for Pharaoh until the day you die. No free lunch. You gotta earn your ticket to paradise. Like, they can't even get a break. Jesus Christ. You gotta put on your damn pantyhose, or I guess slacks now, your Dillard's power suit, and follow I'm being serious, a very specific routine. Whatever the governing body says to do, you have to do that till the day you die. Shoot, you're tired and miserable, right? You've been a faithful Jehovah's Witness, mom, auntie, whoever it is, 65 plus years. Shoot, you're tired and miserable. Why can't you take a break? Only God can read the heart. Surely you have a good heart if you've put in this much time and effort, right? Why can't you apply the same benefit of the doubt? Only God can read hearts, that's lovely, but why can't you apply the same benefit of the doubt to yourself? Because only he who endures to the end will be saved, right? In JW world, no days off. So when I talk about don't let it go, when you hear a witness say this to you, it's not a gotcha. It's not a gotcha question. It's not to make them feel bad. It's to get the wheels turning. And I mean, come on. If they're heavily indoctrinated, they've been doing this their whole life, it's highly unlikely that they're going to be like, oh my God, you're so right. Hadn't thought of it that way. Oh my God, my world is crashing down. They're so deep in it or too deep in it and they know that they can't question their leadership, or even that they can't say it to themselves, because that will open up Pandora's box. It'll open up a whole can of worms. They'll have to question their identity. It's the sunk cost fallacy. All of the main reasons for why you can't really wake up a witness. They have to wake themselves up, but this is just kind of like just get them thinking, especially this one, because again, they're projecting their own compassion and mercy when they are working for a very hard-ass judgmental organization. So I appreciate the sentiment, but that's just not what you guys believe. It's not true. So don't let them say this stuff to you. All right? If you ever hear a Jehovah's Witness breathe the words, well, only God can read the heart, you push back. I mean, in theory, that's nice. Thank you. But if that's the case, you wouldn't have a shunning policy. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.